The ancient pine stood sentinel as Colt Rains checked his compass for the third time in as many minutes. The Canadian wilderness stretched endlessly in every direction, its pristine snow glistening under the pale afternoon sun. He tucked a strand of dark hair beneath his thermal cap and adjusted the medical kit strapped to his pack, a habit from his army days he couldn't seem to shake. "You sure we're not lost?" Jake called from 20 paces behind, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. The stocky, bearded man had been Colt's friend since college, but his wilderness skills left much to be desired. "For the last time, we're not lost," Colt replied, the corner of his mouth lifting in a half-smile. "We're exactly where we're supposed to be." Emma, hiking between them with practiced ease, rolled her eyes. "Stop antagonizing our guide. Jake, some of us actually want to reach the cabin before nightfall." Her red hair peeked out from beneath her wool hat, and her cheeks were flushed from exertion and cold. Colt appreciated Emma's confidence in him. As a wilderness guide, he'd led dozens of expeditions through the most remote parts of North America. But this particular stretch of forest held a special significance. It was where he'd come to heal after 3 tours as a combat medic, where he'd learned that saving lives was his purpose, even when he couldn't save everyone. "Should be just beyond that ridge," Colt said, pointing to a snow-covered incline ahead. "Another hour, tops." Jake groaned dramatically. "An hour? My legs are already staging a mutiny." "Wouldn't be the first time something rebelled against you," Emma quipped, earning a chuckle from Colt. As they continued their trek, Colt's mind wandered to the news reports they'd heard before leaving civilization 3 days ago. Something about unusual atmospheric disturbances near the lunar colonies. Earth's expansion to the moon was still in its infancy, scientific outposts mostly, with talk of tourism to follow. The thought that humans had reached beyond their planet but had yet to encounter other intelligent life fascinated him. There were rumors. Of course, always were. The latest making rounds on the fringe science forums involved something called the Zarathi Empire, supposedly a vast interstellar civilization that exiled its weak members to frontier worlds. Pure fiction, Colt thought, but an interesting premise nonetheless. "You ever wonder what's out there?" Jake asked suddenly, as if reading Colt's thoughts. He gestured toward the darkening sky where the first evening stars were becoming visible. "All the time," Colt admitted. "Though I doubt they'd look anything like the movies. Probably wouldn't even recognize life if we saw it." Emma adjusted her pack. "I just hope if we do meet aliens, they're the peaceful kind. Humanity's got enough problems without an interstellar war." A comfortable silence fell over the group as they crested the ridge. The valley below revealed their destination, a rustic log cabin nestled against the tree line, smoke already rising from its chimney. "I thought you said no one would be here," Jake said, squinting at the smoke. Colt frowned. "No one should be. The property's private, my uncle's." Before anyone could respond, a deafening roar split the air above them. Colt looked up to see a blinding light tear across the sky. A meteor, or perhaps space debris from the lunar colonies. But its trajectory was too controlled, its descent too deliberate. "Take cover!" Colt shouted, pulling his friends down as the object streaked overhead. It wasn't large, perhaps the size of a small car, but it moved with purpose, its outer shell glowing white-hot as it cut through the atmosphere. The object disappeared behind the tree line several miles to the north, followed by a distant boom that echoed across the valley. "Was that what I think it was?" Emma whispered, her eyes wide. Jake let out a nervous laugh. "If you're thinking government satellite or weather balloon, then sure, let's go with that." But Colt knew better. The object's controlled descent, its unusual shape, this was no natural phenomenon or human technology. His heart raced with equal parts fear and fascination. "We should report it," Emma said, reaching for her satellite phone. "No signal out here," Colt reminded her. "Won't be until we reach the cabin. And even then, it's spotty." Jake studied Colt's expression. You want to check it out, don't you? Colt hesitated. The medic in him couldn't ignore a potential crash site. Someone could be hurt. Or something, Jake muttered. This has bad horror movie written all over it. We'll get to the cabin first, Colt decided. Drop our gear, warm up, and then I'll go investigate. You two can stay put. Emma's jaw set in determination. Like hell, I'm staying behind for the discovery of the century. Fine, Colt conceded. But we approach with caution. If it looks dangerous, we retreat. Call it in when we can, and let the authorities handle it. They reached the cabin as darkness fell. After starting a fire and setting down their supplies, Colt packed a smaller bag with medical equipment, a flashlight, and emergency rations. Despite his outward calm, his hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of possibility. Ready, he asked his companions. Jake sighed dramatically. As I'll ever be. With flashlights cutting through the darkness, they followed the trajectory of the crash. The forest was eerily silent. No owls hooting, no creatures rustling in the underbrush. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. After an hour of hiking, a faint glow appeared through the trees ahead. Colt signaled for the others to slow down. Stay low, he whispered. We don't know what we're dealing with. They crept forward until they reached the edge of a small clearing. In its center lay the crashed object, not a meteor or satellite, but unmistakably a vessel of some kind. Its sleek, opalescent surface reflected the moonlight, unmarred despite its violent landing. A deep trench of displaced earth and snow stretched behind it. That's not one of ours, Jake breathed. Emma's scientific mind was already cataloging details. The metal, if it even is metal, should be superheated from entry, but it looks cool to the touch. Colt's attention was drawn to a section of the craft that appeared to be opening. A seam appeared along the smooth surface, widening to reveal a soft blue light from within. We should go, Jake urged, tugging at Colt's sleeve. Right now. But Colt stood transfixed as a figure emerged from the opening. She was clearly female in form, though unmistakably not human. Her skin was a deep ocean blue that seemed to shimmer with bioluminescent patterns. Silver white hair cascaded down her back, contrasting with her skin. She wore what appeared to be armor of an iridescent material that moved like liquid with each breath. The alien took 3 unsteady steps before collapsing into the snow. Instinct took over. Colt rushed forward, medical training superseding caution. Colt, are you insane? Jake hissed, but remained rooted in place. Emma followed Colt, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her fear. As Colt reached the fallen figure, he noticed dark purple fluid seeping from a wound on her temple. Blood, or whatever passed for it in her species. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. She was alive, but unconscious. She's hurt, Colt said, reaching for his medical kit. She? Jake had finally gathered the courage to approach. How do you know it's a she? Does it matter? Emma snapped. She's injured. The alien's eyes suddenly flew open, startling silver irises against black sclera. She spoke, her voice melodic yet filled with pain, in a language Colt couldn't understand. Her hand shot out, grasping Colt's wrist with surprising strength. It's okay, Colt said softly, showing his empty palms. We're trying to help. The alien's bioluminescent patterns flickered rapidly, and she reached for something at her throat, a small device that she activated with a touch. When she spoke again, her words were translated into halting English. Kill me quickly, she said, her silver eyes meeting Colt's. It is your right as victor. Colt shook his head. No one's killing anyone. You're hurt. I'm a medic, a healer. Confusion crossed her alien features. Healer? Not warrior? Both, sometimes, Colt answered honestly. But right now, just a healer. Her expression shifted to something like disgust. Then we are the same. Weak. She tried to rise, but fell back with a grimace of pain. "Stay still," Colt instructed, examining her wound. "You have a concussion, at minimum." Emma knelt beside them. "What's your name? Where are you from?" The alien hesitated before answering. "I am Rhea, third princess of the Zarathi Empire." Her voice carried pride despite her condition. "Exiled for weakness." Jake, who had been circling the craft with his flashlight, rejoined them. "Did she say Zarathi? Like those rumors online?" Rhea's silver eyes narrowed. "You know of the Empire?" "Just stories," Colt said. "Nothing concrete." "Then they have not yet come for your world," Rhea said grimly. "You should run, hide. They will come for me, and they will not show mercy to those who assist a traitor." "What did you do?" Emma asked. Rhea's bioluminescent patterns darkened. "I spared a life when our law demanded death. I showed mercy to an enemy warrior." Her voice became bitter. "I failed my final test of strength." Colt finished cleaning her wound. "Where I come from, mercy isn't weakness. It's strength." Rhea studied him with those alien eyes. "Your world is young. Then you will learn." A distant sound, like thunder but more mechanical, rumbled across the sky. Rhea tensed. "They come already," she whispered. "The retrieval squad. They will kill you for interfering." Colt made a split-second decision. "Can you walk?" "Yes, but—" "Then we're leaving. Now." He helped her to her feet, supporting her weight against his side. "Jake, Emma, grab anything useful from the craft." "Are you kidding?" Jake protested. "We should be running the other way." "And go where?" Colt challenged. "If what she says is true, nowhere is safe. At least at the cabin. We have shelter and supplies." Emma was already examining the craft's interior. "There's some kind of survival pack in here. And weapons, I think." "Take them," Colt ordered. "And hurry!" As they retreated into the forest, Rhea looked back at her vessel. "They will track the pod. Then we'll deal with that when the time comes," Colt said grimly. "One problem at a time." They made their way back to the cabin as quickly as Rhea's condition allowed. The alien princess grew stronger with each passing minute. Her physiology apparently more resilient than human biology. By the time they reached the cabin, she was walking with minimal assistance. Inside, Emma barricaded the door while Jake stoked the fire. Colt helped Rhea to a chair and continued his medical assessment. "Your technology is primitive," Rhea observed, watching him work with bandages and antiseptic. "Gets the job done," Colt replied, unfazed. "How's the pain?" "Manageable. Pain is merely information." Jake snorted. "Yeah, information that says this really hurts." Rhea's translator took a moment to process his sarcasm. "You jest in the face of danger. Interesting." Emma returned from securing the windows. "So, alien princess exiled for being too nice. That's not the first contact scenario anyone predicted." "I am not nice," Rhea protested. "I am a warrior of the Zarathi. I have taken many lives in battle." Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed with agitation. "I simply questioned our methods in one instance." "What happened?" Colt asked gently. Rhea's silver eyes became distant. "We conquered a world called Lyria. The inhabitants fought bravely, but were no match for our technology. Their leader, after surrender, was brought before me for execution. My final test to ascend to full warrior status." She paused. "He had eyes like yours, not in color, but in spirit. He did not beg for his life. He asked only that his people be treated with dignity." "And you couldn't kill him," Emma finished softly. "I refused," Rhea corrected. "There is a difference. I chose to spare him, knowing the consequences." Her patterns darkened. "My mother, the Empress, had no choice but to exile me. Weakness cannot be tolerated in the royal line." Colt finished bandaging her wound. "So now what? These retrieval squads, what will they do?" Standard protocol is to eliminate the exile and any native life forms that have been contaminated by contact. Ria's matter-of-fact tone chilled the room more than the winter night outside. Contaminated? Jake echoed. We're not contaminated. By Zarathi standards. You are, Ria explained. You have knowledge of us now. That cannot be permitted for non-allied worlds. Emma leaned forward. And how does a world become allied? Through conquest or submission, Ria said simply. Your world would not qualify for alliance. You are too undeveloped, too fractured into nations. Colt stood, pacing the small cabin. There has to be another way. Diplomacy. The Empire does not negotiate with primitive worlds, Ria interrupted. It would be beneath our dignity. A heavy silence fell over the cabin, broken only by the crackling of the fire. Outside, the wind had picked up, howling through the trees like a warning. We should destroy the pod, Jake suggested, if that's how they're tracking you. Ria shook her head. The retrieval beacon is already active, and you have no weapons capable of damaging Zarathi technology. What about the weapons from your pod? Emma asked. Personal defense only. Nothing that would stop a retrieval ship. Colt stopped pacing. How much time do we have? Ria considered. The nearest outpost is in your solar system's outer region. Perhaps one of your Earth days before they arrive. Then we use that time, Colt decided. We prepare. Jake threw up his hands. Prepare for what? An alien invasion? With what? Hunting rifles and bear spray? With knowledge, Colt said, turning to Ria. You know their protocols, their weaknesses. Help us survive this. Ria's silver eyes studied him. Why would I betray my people further? Because they've already betrayed you, Emma pointed out. They exiled you for showing compassion. And, Colt added, because I saved your life instead of taking it. By your own customs, you owe me. A flicker of respect showed in Ria's bioluminescent patterns. Cleverly argued, human. Very well. I will share what I know, though it will likely make little difference. Throughout the night, they planned. Ria explained Zarathi tactics, their hierarchical command structure, and the retrieval squad's likely approach. The more she spoke, the more Colt realized they weren't just facing superior technology. They were facing an entirely different philosophy. Your people really believe that mercy is weakness? He asked during a lull in the planning. Ria's patterns shifted to a deep blue. The universe is cruel. Only the strong survive. This is the foundation of Zarathi philosophy. But that's just biological determinism, Emma argued. Advanced societies thrive through cooperation, not just competition. Perhaps on Earth, Ria conceded. The galaxy has harsher lessons. As dawn approached, Jake had fallen asleep on the couch, while Emma dozed at the table. Colt remained awake with Ria, watching the alien princess as she examined human artifacts around the cabin with curious fingers. These images, she said, pointing to family photos on the mantel. Your pack? Family, Colt corrected. That's my uncle who owns this cabin, his wife, their children. You protect them? When needed. Mostly we just love each other. Ria's translator seemed to struggle with the concept. Love. Your word has no direct translation in Zarathi. The closest would be strategic alliance. Colt smiled tiredly. Not quite the same thing. You smile at my ignorance? No, he said quickly. I smile because it's sad that your language doesn't have a word for love. Ria's patterns rippled. What use is such a concept to conquerors? Maybe that's the problem, Colt suggested gently. Before Ria could respond, a low humming sound penetrated the cabin walls. She stiffened, her patterns flaring bright. They're here, she whispered. Far sooner than I calculated. Colt moved to the window, carefully peering through the curtains. In the pre-dawn light, he could make out a massive shape descending through the clouds, far larger than Ria's escape pod. Wake the others, he ordered, grabbing his pack. As Jake and Emma stirred, Rhea stood with newfound determination. I will face them alone. It is my exile, my burden. Not anymore, Colt said firmly. We're in this together now. The Zarathi ship, sleek and predatory in design, hovered above the clearing where Rhea's pod had crashed. It was at least the size of a commercial airliner, but moved with impossible grace. A beam of light shot from its underside, scanning the area. They're looking for life signs, Rhea explained. The cabin structure may temporarily mask our presence, but they will find us eventually. What options do we have? Emma asked, her scientific mind already calculating possibilities. Fight or surrender, Rhea said simply. Both end in death for you. Colt shook his head. There's always another way. He turned to Rhea. You said you were exiled for showing mercy. Prove it now. Show us how to approach them peacefully. Rhea's patterns darkened, with something like shame. You don't understand. My actions were considered treasonous. Any Zarathi commander would execute me on sight, and you for harboring me. Then we don't give them the chance, Jake suggested. We run. The forest is dense. We know it better than they do. Their scanners would find us, Rhea countered. And their weapons have considerable range. A tense silence fell over the group. Outside, the massive ship continued its methodical scan of the area, drawing closer to the cabin with each sweep. What if, Colt began slowly, we use their own philosophy against them? They respect strength, right? Rhea nodded cautiously. Then we show strength, but not the kind they're expecting. Colt's mind raced with a dangerous plan. We approach openly, without fear. We offer terms as equals. Emma looked skeptical. They'll just shoot us. Not if we have leverage, Colt insisted. He turned to Rhea. Your pod, does it have a communication system intact? Yes, but could you send a message to your empire? To someone higher than whoever commands that retrieval ship? Understanding dawned in Rhea's silver eyes. You wish to appeal to the Imperial Council. It's unprecedented. So is a human saving a Zarathi princess, Colt pointed out. Even if I could establish communication, the Council would simply order our execution, Rhea argued. My mother cannot show favoritism, especially toward her weakest daughter. Unless we can prove that mercy isn't weakness, Colt insisted. That it's another kind of strength they haven't considered. The scanning beam swept closer to the cabin. We're out of time, Jake warned. They'll be on us in minutes. Rhea stood taller, her decision made. I will speak with them first, alone. It is my right as royal blood, even in exile. She fixed her silver eyes on Colt. Stay hidden until I signal. If I fail, run. Die with dignity, at least. Before any of them could protest, Rhea moved to the door and stepped outside into the snow. Her blue skin and silver hair stood in stark contrast to the white landscape as she walked with regal bearing toward the hovering ship. Colt, Emma, and Jake watched anxiously from the window as the ship's scanning beam locked onto Rhea. A moment later, the beam widened, and several figures descended through it, Zarathi warriors in full battle armor, their weapons trained on their exiled princess. One figure, larger than the others and wearing more elaborate armor, stepped forward. Even from a distance, his hostile posture was clear. Commander Thane, Rhea murmured, her voice carrying to the cabin on the still morning air. I did not expect the honor of my teacher leading my execution. The commander's voice was deep and mechanically enhanced by his helmet. Princess Rhea, your exile brings shame to the Empire and your bloodline. Yet, here you are, bringing the might of a retrieval cruiser against one unarmed exile, Rhea replied, her tone neutral but challenging. Does that not speak of fear rather than strength? Thane's posture stiffened. I fear nothing, least of all a failed warrior who could not complete a simple execution. Then you fear what I represent, Rhea pressed. The possibility that our empire's foundation is flawed. Inside the cabin, Colt watched the exchange with growing tension. She's provoking him, he whispered. Is that good or bad? Jake asked. Depends on whether her plan is to die making a point, Emma replied grimly. Thane stepped closer to Rhea, towering over her. You have been contaminated by primitive thoughts on this savage world. The Empress was merciful to exile rather than execute you. Yes, my mother showed mercy, Rhea agreed. By your definition, a weakness. Yet you obey her without question. A murmur ran through the other warriors. Thane silenced them with a gesture. Enough philosophy. You will return to the Empire for proper judgment. First, however, we must cleanse this area of any who have seen you. Rhea's patterns flared bright. No, the humans who found me showed mercy when our ways would demand my death. They have honor. They are primitives, Thane dismissed, barely spacefaring, unworthy of notice. Yet worthy of execution? Rhea challenged. That seems inconsistent. Teacher? Colt had heard enough. Despite their plan, he couldn't let Rhea face this alone. He stepped out of the cabin and into the open, ignoring Jake and Emma's frantic whispers. I am Colt Rains, he announced, walking forward with deliberate calm. I found Princess Rhea injured and chose to heal rather than harm her. Thane's helmet turned toward Colt, its featureless faceplate revealing nothing of the Zarathi's reaction. A primitive who does not know to fear superior beings. Interesting. Not primitive, Colt corrected. Different. We value life, all life. We see strength in preservation, not just destruction. Other warriors raised their weapons, but Thane held up a hand to stop them. You speak boldly for one so easily killed. Because I know something you don't, Colt replied. That true strength comes from here. He tapped his chest, over his heart. Not from weapons or conquest. Thane made a sound that might have been a laugh. Sentiment, the refuge of the weak. Then, why haven't you fired? Colt challenged. You have the weapons, the power. Why waste time talking to primitives? Emma and Jake had emerged from the cabin now, standing beside Colt in silent solidarity. Rhea looked at the three humans with an expression of wonder and concern. You risk your lives for one not of your kind, Thane observed. Foolish. We risk our lives for what's right, Emma countered. That's not foolish, it's principle. Thane seemed to consider this before turning back to Rhea. You see how these primitives think, with emotion rather than logic. This is why they are unworthy of alliance. Or perhaps, Rhea suggested, her voice strengthening, this is why they would make the strongest allies of all. She stepped forward, placing herself between Thane and the humans. I challenge the retrieval order on grounds of imperial interest. A ripple of surprise moved through the warriors. Thane's posture became rigid. You invoke ancient law, he said, voice dangerously quiet. On what basis? These humans possess a strength the Empire has not encountered before, Rhea declared. A strength of spirit that transcends physical power or technological advancement. I believe it merits study rather than destruction. Thane considered her words. You truly have been corrupted by exile. But very well. The law allows for your challenge. He turned to the warriors. Secure the area. No communication with the vessel until this matter is resolved. As the warriors spread out to form a perimeter, Thane removed his helmet, revealing a face similar to Rhea's, but with harsher features and skin patterns that pulsed with aggressive reds and purples. The challenge requires proof, he stated coldly. How will you demonstrate this supposed spiritual strength of primitives? Rhea hesitated, clearly improvising. Colt stepped forward. Through action, he said firmly. Let me show you our ways. One day. That's all I ask. Thane's alien eyes narrowed. One planetary rotation to prove your worth or die trying. I accept these terms. He turned to Rhea. The princess remains under guard. The primitives may proceed with their demonstration. As Thane replaced his helmet and stepped away to confer with his warriors, Rhea turned to Colt with urgent whispers. "What are you doing? There is no demonstration that will convince Thane." "Trust me," Colt said. "I have a plan. But I'll need your help." He quickly outlined his idea, while Emma and Jake exchanged worried glances. "That's insane," Jake muttered. "You're betting all our lives on alien psychology?" "Do you have a better idea?" Colt challenged. Jake sighed. "No, but for the record, I think we're all going to die." "Noted," Colt replied with a grim smile. He turned back to Rhea. "Will it work?" Her patterns shifted through several colors before settling on a determined blue. "It might. Zarathi respect courage above all else. This plan has that, if nothing else." Throughout that day, Colt led Thane and 2 warriors through the winter forest, while Rhea remained at the cabin under guard. Emma and Jake stayed as well, ostensibly preparing a ceremonial meal, but actually setting up the second phase of Colt's plan. In the forest, Colt demonstrated human survival skills, fire-making without technology, tracking animals, finding water beneath frozen streams. The Zarathi watched with thinly veiled contempt. "These are animal skills," Thane observed, as Colt constructed a small shelter from branches. "Any species can adapt to its environment. But not every species can adapt to environments they weren't born for," Colt countered. "Humans thrive everywhere. Deserts, Arctic, jungles. Not because we're physically strongest, but because we cooperate and learn." "Cooperation is for the weak who cannot survive alone," one warrior commented. Colt stopped his work. "Is that why you travel in groups? Why your empire has soldiers instead of just a single ruler? Because you're weak." The warrior bristled, hand moving to his weapon. Thane stopped him with a gesture. "The primitive has a point, Kess." Thane admitted reluctantly. "Strength is multiplied through unity. This is basic imperial doctrine." "Exactly," Colt agreed. "So maybe what you call weakness, mercy, compassion, cooperation with those different from you, is actually strength you haven't recognized yet." Thane made a dismissive sound. "Philosophy again. Show me this strength in action, human, not words." As dusk approached, they returned to the cabin. Emma and Jake had prepared a meal using their rations, and local plants Colt had taught them to identify. Rhea sat apart, still under guard, but watching the proceedings with intense interest. "Before we eat," Colt announced, "there's something you should see." He nodded to Emma, who revealed a makeshift bandage on her arm. Emma was injured while preparing the meal. "In our culture, we heal wounds, no matter how small." He knelt beside Emma and began treating her cut with supplies from his medical kit. The Zarathi warriors watched with expressions ranging from confusion to disgust. "You waste resources on non-lethal injuries?" one warrior asked. "We value all life, including our own," Colt replied calmly. "Each person matters. Each injury, no matter how small, deserves attention." He finished bandaging Emma's arm and then, in the plan's riskiest move, approached Warrior Kess. "I notice you're favoring your left side. You were injured during landing, weren't you?" Kess stiffened. "It is nothing. A warrior endures." "A warrior who bleeds unnecessarily is a liability to his unit," Colt countered, deliberately using military terminology. "Let me examine it," Thane intervened. "Zarathi do not accept aid from primitives." "Even if it makes your warrior stronger for battle," Colt challenged. "Seems like pride overriding practicality." A tense silence fell over the cabin. Finally, Thane nodded once. "Proceed, but know that if you harm him, your death will be slow." With careful movements, Colt examined Kess's injury, a deep gash along his ribs that had been roughly sealed but was clearly infected. The purple blood had darkened to almost black around the wound edges. "This needs cleaning and proper closure," Colt said professionally. The infection could spread to vital organs if left untreated. Kess looked to Thane, who nodded permission. Colt worked with methodical precision, cleaning the wound and applying antibiotics before rebandaging it properly. Throughout the procedure, he explained each step, treating the warrior with the same care he would show a human patient. "Why do you help your enemy?" Kess asked quietly, as Colt finished. "You're not my enemy," Colt replied. "You're my patient. That's all that matters in the moment of healing." When he had finished, Colt stepped back. "The wound will heal cleanly now. You'll be at full strength within days instead of weakening from infection." Kess touched the bandage with something like wonder. "It feels better already." Thane observed the exchange with unreadable eyes. "An interesting demonstration. Human. You believe healing is strength?" "I believe preserving life is strength," Colt corrected. "Taking life is easy. Any creature with teeth or claws can kill. Creating and preserving life, that takes real power." The meal proceeded in awkward silence. The Zarathi warriors examined the human food suspiciously before trying small portions. Rhea watched it all with increasing hope in her silver eyes. As night fell, Jake implemented the next phase of their plan. He brought out a small memory device from his pack and projected images onto the cabin wall, photographs and videos from Earth's history. "These are our battles," Jake explained, showing images of world wars and conflicts. "Humans have fought each other for millennia. We know violence intimately." The warriors nodded in recognition of something familiar. "But these," Jake continued, switching to images of hospitals, rescue operations, and humanitarian missions, "are our greatest victories, when we choose to save instead of destroy." Images of doctors performing surgery, firefighters rescuing children, aid workers distributing food in disaster zones, all played across the wall. The Zarathi warriors watched in silence, their postures betraying their confusion. "Your species is contradictory," Thane finally said. "You wage war yet celebrate peace." "Because we've learned that true conquest isn't taking territory," Emma explained. "It's winning hearts and minds, building instead of destroying." Rhea spoke up from her place in the corner. "This is what I saw, teacher. This is why I could not execute the Lyrian leader. I saw in him what these humans embody, the strength to choose life over death when both options exist." Thane turned to her. "You speak of choice as if it matters. The strong do what they must." "The truly strong," Colt interjected, "do what they choose, not what they must. That's the difference." A heavy silence fell over the cabin. Outside, the night had deepened, and snow began to fall gently. "Your demonstration is noted," Thane finally said, "but insufficient. Words and images prove nothing. The Empire requires concrete evidence of this supposed strength." This was the moment Colt had been waiting for. "Then let us prove it beyond doubt, tomorrow." Thane inclined his head slightly. "One final chance, then, at dawn." As the Zarathi warriors returned to their ship for the night, taking Rhea with them as insurance, Colt, Emma, and Jake hurriedly finalized their plan. "This is still insane," Jake muttered. "You're betting our lives on making the most militaristic aliens imaginable see the value of peace?" "Not peace," Colt corrected. "Mercy. Different concept, and yes, it's a gamble, but it's all we've got." Emma squeezed his shoulder. "I think it's brilliant. Terrifying, but brilliant. If it fails," Colt said seriously, "run for the hills. There's an old mining tunnel about 5 miles west. It might shield you from their scanners long enough to reach civilization." "We're not leaving you," Emma insisted. Colt smiled sadly. "Just keep it as Plan B, okay?" Dawn broke clear and cold. The Zarathi ship hovered ominously above the clearing as Colt, Emma, and Jake emerged from the cabin. Thane stood waiting with his warriors, Rhea beside him under guard. "Your final demonstration, human," Thane announced. "Make it count." Colt stepped forward. "For this, I need Princess Rhea's assistance. Tane considered, then nodded. Rhea was brought forward, her silver eyes questioning. What I'm about to show you, Colt addressed the assembled warriors, is the ultimate strength as humans understand it. The power to heal even your enemies. He turned to Rhea and spoke quietly. Do you trust me? Her patterns flickered with uncertainty before steadying. Yes. Colt reached into his pack and withdrew a hunting knife. A murmur ran through the warriors as he held it up. This blade is primitive by your standards, he announced, but sharp enough to kill. In a swift motion, he cut his own palm, letting red blood drip onto the snow. My life force, freely given. Tane stepped forward, suspicious. What trick is this? No trick, Colt replied calmly. Princess Rhea, you told me your people have healing abilities that you're forbidden to use in battle. That healing is considered woman's work, beneath a warrior's dignity. Rhea nodded slowly. Yes, all Zarathi females can heal through touch, but warriors are trained to suppress this ability. Then heal me, Colt challenged. Show your people that preservation is as powerful as destruction. A gasp went through the warriors. Kess, the warrior Colt had treated, stepped forward. Commander, this is sacrilege. A royal princess cannot use healing powers on a primitive. Tane raised a hand for silence, his alien eyes fixed on Colt. You ask her to defile her royal blood with primitive contact. I ask her to demonstrate true strength, Colt countered. Unless you fear what that might prove. It was a calculated challenge to Zarathi pride, and it worked. Tane nodded stiffly. Proceed, princess. Show this human the folly of his philosophy. Rhea approached Colt, her bioluminescent patterns swirling with complex emotions. She took his injured hand in hers, blue fingers contrasting with his tan skin. This will cause you pain, she warned softly. I can handle it, Colt assured her. Rhea closed her eyes in concentration. Her patterns began to glow brighter, pulsing in rhythm with Colt's heartbeat. A warm sensation spread from her touch, followed by an intense burning that made Colt grit his teeth. The wound on his palm began to close before everyone's eyes, new skin forming in seconds. When she released his hand, the cut was completely healed, leaving only a faint white line as evidence. The Zarathi warriors murmured among themselves, clearly disturbed by this public display of healing power. Thane's posture had become rigid with disapproval. You have broken taboo, princess, he stated coldly. Healing a primitive, and in front of warriors no less. Yet the primitive is now stronger for battle, Rhea pointed out. Is that not the Zarathi way? To strengthen our forces by any means necessary? Before Tane could respond, Colt implemented the final, most dangerous part of their plan. There's more, he announced. Princess Rhea told me of your neural interface technology, how Zarathi can share thoughts and experiences through direct connection. Thane's attention snapped to Colt. That knowledge is restricted. The princess has revealed imperial secrets to primitives. Knowledge freely given isn't stolen, Colt argued. And what I propose is this. Let Princess Rhea share her experience of mercy, both receiving and giving it, with you and your warriors. Let you feel what she felt when she chose to spare the Lyrian leader. An uncomfortable silence fell over the clearing. Such intimate neural sharing was clearly taboo outside of specific circumstances. Impossible, Thane declared. Neural sharing is sacred, reserved for bonded warriors or mates. Or, Rhea interjected, for judgment of royal transgressions, which this is, by your own declaration. Teacher. Thane's patterns flashed with anger. You would use ancient law against me again? I would use truth against ignorance, Rhea replied calmly. One connection. With you, Commander. Let me show you what I saw in the Lyrian's eyes. What I see in these humans' hearts. The standoff stretched for long moments. Finally, Thane removed his helmet again, his alien features set in grim determination. One connection, Then judgment. They knelt in the snow facing each other. Rhea placed her hands on either side of Tyne's face, their foreheads touching. Both closed their eyes as their bioluminescent patterns synchronized, pulsing in perfect harmony. Colt, Emma, and Jake watched in tense silence. The other warriors formed a circle around the connected pair, weapons ready but uncertain. Minutes passed. Tears began to stream down Rhea's blue cheeks, freezing in the cold air. Tane's patterns fluctuated wildly between aggressive reds and contemplative blues. When they finally separated, Tyne remained kneeling in the snow, his expression stunned. Rhea rose shakily to her feet, her silver eyes finding Colt's. "He saw," she whispered. "He felt everything." Tane slowly stood, his patterns now pulsing in colors Colt hadn't seen before, deep purples and golds that seemed to indicate profound confusion or revelation. "Commander," one warrior ventured. "Your orders?" Tane raised a hand for silence, his eyes never leaving Rhea. "I have witnessed the princess's experience. I have felt the other path." His voice sounded different, less mechanical, more vulnerable. The Lyrian leader's courage, the humans' compassion, the alternatives to our way. He turned to his warriors. "Lower your weapons." The warriors hesitated, clearly shocked by the command. "Lower them!" Thane ordered sharply. When they complied, he addressed Rhea formally. "Princess Rhea of House Zarathi, your exile is suspended pending imperial review. You will return with us to present your case directly to the Empress." A murmur of shock ran through the warriors. Such a reversal was unprecedented. Rhea's patterns flared with hope. "And the humans?" Thane turned to Colt, Emma, and Jake. "They have demonstrated unexpected qualities. Their world will be marked for observation rather than conquest. For now." Relief washed over the three humans, though Colt maintained his composed exterior. "Thank you, Commander." Tane's alien features arranged themselves into what might have been a wry expression. "Do not thank me yet, human. The Empress may overrule my decision, but she will first have to hear my testimony and feel what I have felt today." He gestured to his warriors. "Prepare for departure." As the warriors began to withdraw, Rhea approached Colt. Her silver eyes held a complex mixture of emotions. "You have given me a chance to redeem myself in my mother's eyes," she said softly, "and perhaps to change the Empire itself, in time." "You gave yourself that chance when you chose mercy over execution," Colt replied. "I just helped you see it wasn't a mistake." Rhea's patterns rippled with what Colt had come to recognize as amusement. "For a primitive, you are surprisingly wise. For a princess, you're surprisingly humble," he countered with a smile. Their eyes held for a long moment. Rhea reached out hesitantly, touching Colt's face with cool blue fingers. "Neural connection between our species is impossible without technology. But I wish you could feel what I feel now." "I think I can," Colt said quietly. Warrior Kess approached, interrupting the moment. "Princess, Commander Thane requests your presence aboard the vessel." Rhea nodded and stepped back from Colt. "Farewell, Colt Reigns of Earth. Perhaps our paths will cross again." "I'd count on it," Colt replied. "The universe seems to have a way of bringing people together." As Rhea turned to leave, Kess lingered for a moment. "Human," he said stiffly. "The treatment you provided, it was effective. I am at optimal capacity again." Colt recognized the awkward thanks for what it was. "Glad to hear it, Warrior Kess. Should you ever require assistance," Kess continued formally, "speak my name to the stars. I will hear." With that cryptic promise, he followed Rhea toward the waiting ship. Emma and Jake joined Colt as they watched the Zarathi warriors board their vessel through beams of light. "Did that actually work?" Jake asked incredulously. "Did we just prevent an alien invasion with a philosophy lesson?" "And some basic first aid," Emma added with a grin. Colt's eyes remained on the ship as it began to ascend. We showed them another way. Whether it changes anything in the long run, he shrugged. That's up to them now. The ship rose into the morning sky, its sleek form gleaming in the sunlight before accelerating with impossible speed and vanishing among the clouds. 6 months later, Colt stood on the observation deck of Lunar Colony Alpha, gazing through the reinforced glass at the Earth, hanging like a blue jewel against the black velvet of space. Behind him, officials from every major nation buzzed with nervous excitement. "They're here," Emma announced, joining him at the window. Now dressed in the formal uniform of Earth's newly created diplomatic corps, she looked considerably different from the hiker he'd traveled with half a year ago. "Right on schedule," Colt noted, checking his watch. "Zarathi are nothing if not punctual." The observation deck fell silent as a massive ship appeared in lunar orbit, far larger than the retrieval vessel they'd encountered in the Canadian wilderness. Its opalescent surface reflected the sunlight, creating rainbow patterns across the lunar landscape. "Hard to believe it's only been 6 months, Jake commented, joining them. His press credentials hung around his neck, his camera already recording. From first contact in a cabin to formal diplomatic relations, the Empress moved quickly once she reviewed Tane's testimony, Colt replied. And once Rhea showed her the alternatives to conquest, a smaller vessel detached from the main ship, descending toward the colony's landing pad. The assembled dignitaries moved toward the airlock, ready to greet Earth's first official alien visitors. Colt remained by the window, watching the landing vessel with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. So much had changed since that night in the forest. The world had been thrown into chaos by the revelation that aliens existed, that they had been observing Earth for centuries. But from that chaos had emerged a new unity. Nations, setting aside old grievances to present a united front to the galaxy. And at the center of it all was the story of a human medic and an alien princess who had found common ground in mercy. The smaller vessel landed with graceful precision. After a moment, its hatch opened, and familiar blue-skinned figures emerged. At their head walked Rhea, now dressed in ceremonial armor that marked her new status, not as an exiled princess, but as the Empress's official envoy to Earth. Colt felt his heart quicken at the sight of her. They had communicated regularly during the preparations for this day, but seeing her in person again affected him more than he had anticipated. As the Earth delegates moved to meet the Zarathi envoys, Colt remained apart, watching the historic moment unfold. He wasn't a diplomat or politician, just the man who happened to find an alien in the woods. His official role in today's proceedings was minimal. But then, Rhea's silver eyes found him across the crowded chamber, and her bioluminescent patterns flared with recognition and something deeper. She said something to her escort, then moved purposefully through the crowd toward Colt. The officials parted before her, conversations falling silent as she passed. When she reached Colt, she stopped a respectful distance away. "Healer Colt Rains," she greeted formally. Her translator, now much more sophisticated than the simple device she'd worn during their first meeting. "Earth suits you better than the moon." Colt smiled. "Ambassador Rhea, diplomatic status suits you better than exile." Her patterns rippled with amusement. "Much better accommodations." "Certainly." She glanced around at the watching eyes before lowering her voice. "Walk with me. Before the formal proceedings begin." They found a quieter section of the observation deck, away from the main gathering. The Earth hung before them, beautiful and fragile. "My mother sends her regards," Rhea said after a moment. "She is reconsidering many aspects of imperial policy based on what happened between us." "Is that diplomatic speak for thank you for not letting them kill my daughter?" Colt asked with a raised eyebrow. Rhea's patterns flashed with laughter. "Something like that. The Empress does not say thank you easily." "Runs in the family," Colt teased. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Earth rotate slowly below them. "We've prepared a comprehensive treaty," Rhea finally said. Technology exchange, defense agreements, cultural cooperation, the first of its kind in Zarathi history, an alliance based on mutual respect rather than conquest. All because you couldn't kill one prisoner, Colt mused. Funny how the universe works? Not just that, Rhea corrected, turning to face him fully. Because you showed me that my weakness was actually strength. Because you healed instead of harmed. Because you risked everything on the belief that compassion could overcome conditioning. Her hand moved to a pouch at her belt, withdrawing a small, crystalline object that caught the light in hypnotic patterns. In my culture, she explained, when one soul recognizes another as its equal in strength, we exchange symbols of that recognition. She held out the crystal. This is mine to you. Colt accepted the gift, feeling its subtle warmth against his palm. It's beautiful. It's alive, Rhea said. A living crystal that resonates with my bioluminescent patterns. It will always lead you to me, across any distance. The significance of such a gift wasn't lost on Colt. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a simple silver band. In my culture, he said, we have something similar, though not quite as advanced. He held out the ring. This was my grandfather's. He gave it to me before he died, told me to save it for someone special. Rhea accepted the ring with reverent fingers, examining its simple elegance. What does it signify? Promise, Colt said simply. That distance and difference don't matter when two souls recognize each other. Rhea slipped the ring onto a chain around her neck, where it rested against her blue skin, like a star against the night sky. The treaty signing will begin soon, she said softly. After that, I must return to the Empire to continue my work there. And I have to help Earth prepare for its new place in the galaxy. Colt nodded. But not forever. No, Rhea agreed, her silver eyes holding his. Not forever. Behind them, the formal announcements began, calling delegates to the ceremonial chamber. The future of two worlds, and perhaps the entire Zarathi Empire, waited to be written. As they turned to join the proceedings, Rhea's hand found Colt's, blue fingers intertwining with tan ones, in a gesture that transcended species and culture. In that touch was the promise of something revolutionary, not just peace between worlds, but understanding across the stars. And it had all begun with a single act of mercy in a snowy forest. Proof that true strength sometimes came in the form of compassion, and that love could indeed build bridges across the void.